Kentucky's Voice is your home for real news, real people, and real answers. But we can't do it without you. Your financial support helps us bring truth to the forefront, hold leaders accountable, and give a voice to the people of the Commonwealth. Join the fight today. Give online at kyvoice.org or text KYVoice to 53555. Every gift makes a difference. Stand with us. Speak up. Stay strong. You are Kentucky's voice.
Are you ready to stand for truth? Kentucky is at a crossroads, and we need voices that won't back down. This is your moment to rise, speak up, and be part of a movement that's changing the narrative in the Commonwealth. Kentucky's Voice is calling on bold citizen journalists, fearless editors, and those unafraid to speak truth in the public square. Volunteer, intern, contribute. Scan the QR code or visit kyvoice.org to join the fight. This is more than media. This is your moment. You are Kentucky's voice.
Open borders, shameful abandonment, disregard for human life, the prospect of more mandates and lockdowns, and the list goes on. Now more than ever, we need to stick together. Voting alone is not enough. We must use our dollars to support like-minded companies that fight for our rights and beliefs. Patriot Mobile is America's only Christian conservative wireless provider who shares your values. Last year, we gave more than $500,000 to conservative causes. With your support, we'll give more than $1.5 million this year. It's time to band together and support companies that truly love America and fight for our freedoms. Will you join us?
Kentucky's Voice is your home for real news, real people, and real answers. But we can't do it without you. Your financial support helps us bring truth to the forefront, hold leaders accountable, and give a voice to the people of the Commonwealth. Join the fight today. Give online at kyvoice.org or text KYVoice to 53555. Every gift makes a difference. Stand with us. Speak up. Stay strong. You are Kentucky's voice.
Are you ready to stand for truth? Kentucky is at a crossroads, and we need voices that won't back down. This is your moment to rise, speak up, and be part of a movement that's changing the narrative in the Commonwealth. Kentucky's Voice is calling on bold citizen journalists, fearless editors, and those unafraid to speak truth in the public square. Volunteer, intern, contribute. Scan the QR code or visit kyvoice.org to join the fight. This is more than media. This is your moment. You are Kentucky's voice.
Open borders, shameful abandonment, disregard for human life, the prospect of more mandates and lockdowns, and the list goes on. Now more than ever, we need to stick together. Voting alone is not enough. We must use our dollars to support like-minded companies that fight for our rights and beliefs. Patriot Mobile is America's only Christian conservative wireless provider who shares your values. Last year, we gave more than $500,000 to conservative causes. With your support, we'll give more than $1.5 million this year. It's time to band together and support companies that truly love America and fight for our freedoms. Will you join us?
This is Kentucky's Voice Radio, covering the latest state and local issues with Tom Fallbush, Bob Scott, and Jim Waters.
And welcome, everybody, to Kentucky's Voice. I'm your host for the day, Andrew Cooperrider. So happy and so excited to be with you today. The last few days, obviously, were not live broadcasts. They were repeats, but today's is live. So if you're listening to this on Wednesday at 11 a.m., you are listening to me live. The last few days, obviously, with the snow going on, we've had to do some replays and everything else, but I hope you tuned in today because we have a lot to talk about. We got stuff going on in the legislature. I'm hoping we may have a very special guest today. We'll see here how that comes together. Well, that's working in the background. But regardless, if you want to chime in today, if you want to join into the conversations, shoot us over a text. That number is 502-571-0970. Once again, that's 502-571-0970 is our text-in line. There's a lot moving in the legislature. They dropped the official budget bill out of the Kentucky State House, sending a pretty clear message to Andy Beshear, and that is fess up. Work with us or get nothing. See, normally when they file the budget, they have a bunch of budget requests in there, earmarked funds that the executive branch has asked for, as well as lobbyists and legislators. This time around, what they filed is largely missing that because, well, the Beshear administration has probably refused to work with the legislature. Just a few months ago, in a budget committee hearing, they requested financial documents from the Beshear administration in order to help them make their budgets, and the administration refused to turn them over, saying they are draft documents, and therefore they do not have to turn them over, and they will not be turning them over because it is up to Beshear to read those reports and then tell them about it. And so they decided, well, if you're not going to be transparent with us, we're going to demand it. So instead, they stripped out all the additional budget request items and said, if you want this money in the budget, you better come to us and make a public argument in committee hearings for why our hard-earned taxpayer funds should be put into this. And to give you an idea of the amount of budget requests that's normally in the bill, normally when the initial bill is filed, it's about 250-ish pages, 275-ish. The bill that was filed yesterday is only right around 150. So it is physically a smaller budget. Now, that means, though, that chances are the budget will go up and what they're spending will go up. We'll see what the final numbers end up being. But the talk is that they got to cut at least $1 billion in order to accomplish another income tax cut. So it's very an important thing for them to kind of put in place. And so that is a current fight going on with the legislature and the governor when it comes to the budget. Where we spend this money at, we need to cut funding in some places. We need to cut the fat. We need to whittle away at this. You need to work with us on it, or we're just not going to give you anything. Now, I wish they did zero-based budgeting. Some people asked about Beshear's Davos strips and other things, and who's approving that, who's funding that. And it's the problem is we don't budget in that way. We don't budget by saying this is the amount of money you're going to spend on pencils. This is the amount of money you're going to spend on salaries. This is the amount of money you can spend on traveling. And these are the places you can travel to. When the legislature makes the budget, they appropriate large pots of funds that then that department can spend how they want to. And that should really change. And while this isn't that zero-based budgeting that I asked for, that I think we should do. What this is a step in the right direction. So we'll be talking Kentucky politics, of course, today. If you want to join into the conversation, shoot me over a message, 502-571-0970. Once again, that's 502-571-0970. I'm Andrew Cooperrider, your host. We'll be back in about a minute. If you like what you're hearing today, check out the Andrew Cooperrider Show right here on WGTK, Sundays at 6. You can also head over to theandrewshow.com and see all the different places where you can listen to the Andrew Cooperrider Show. We'll be back here in about a minute.
Back to Kentucky's Voice Radio, online at kyvoice.org.
And you're back here on Kentucky's Voice. I'm your host for the day, Andrew Cooperrider. If you want to join into the conversation, shoot us over a text. You can text 502-502-571-0970. Once again, that's 502-571-0970. I want to tell you a little story. A news story I reported on a few years ago that was brought to me. And it was out of the Raceland-Worthington School District. And there was a teacher there that, according to what was reported, that he was the criminal justice teacher, funny enough, then also a girls' volleyball or soccer coach or something along those lines. And what he would do, and was found to have done multiple times based upon the evidence provided. Obviously, all people are innocent till proven guilty, but it's kind of hard to prove him guilty because of what I'm about to tell you. So he reportedly would show some special attention to female freshmen as they came in. He would show them special attention, make them his teacher's aide, even communicate with them outside of typical channels, messaging them on Facebook, etc., buying them gifts, so on and so forth, showing them that special attention. And then, he lived, Raceland-Worthington, I believe that's in Greenup County. And so he lived right across the river in Ohio. And when those girls in high school that he started establishing a relationship with when they were 14 turned 18, he would invite them over to his house and, engage in relations with them. It's a pretty horrific story. And when this was discovered or alleged, KSP was called in to investigate. And according to the local news stories reported on this and everything else, like I said, this is just what the story was. This was a few years ago. KSP found that he's doing this, sure, but it's not actually illegal. You see, in the state of Kentucky, it's not illegal currently for a teacher to identify a 14-year-old girl or boy, show them special attention, use their position as as leadership in their life to establish a relationship with them that then turns sexual once they become 18 years old. And that's called grooming. And you may be sitting there thinking, wow, that's crazy that that's not illegal. So KSP found that he was doing it, but can't actually do anything about it. And it was really unclear if he could even be fired for doing it. Well, this year there is a new bill filed by Representative Proctor that's getting a hearing today, House Bill 4, which would make it illegal grooming. It would be a grooming law to make it illegal to groom a child. If you're in a position of authority in a person under 18's life, and then you engage and wait till they turn 18 and then you've sex with them, this would go ahead and tamp that down by criminalizing grooming by teachers, coaches, authority figures of any student under 18. Now, there's been some stabs at how to deal with this as well as some other issues. Last year, a bill was passed that forbade teachers from communicating with students in a way that the parents aren't aware of, like the parents aren't copied in it, without parental consent. So if you had a coach wanting to text a student, they would have to text that student in a group chat with one of their parents, or their parent would have to sign off allowing them to do this. Now, this bill was used to help aim at this grooming side of things, to create a legal activity that they were doing as they're grooming the students, but also it was to deal with another story that happened in Anderson County, Kentucky, where a guidance counselor was a young girl had developed a quote unquote gay relationship with a fellow student. The parents found out about it, and they forbade her from seeing her and punished her for it. Not as much. I mean, obviously they're Christians. They disagree with the fact she was homosexual and would attempt to deal with that and adjust that. But the reasoning behind the punishment was that she was having this girl over at their house. She was going over her house. In the same way that you wouldn't let your 15, 16-year-old daughter have a boy over to her house and spend the night at her house and everything else, they viewed it as this is the same thing. And so you can't see her. Well, the guidance counselor at the local public school saw this and started to facilitate the girls having rendezvous in her office. She would set up during school hours times where both the girls could be alone in the guidance counselor's office. And the guidance counselor also went through coaching the girl on on recording the parents and what they were saying and doing, and then trying to make complaints to CPS, with the guidance counselor promising that she would adopt the girl and take care of the girl if she got taken away from her parents and her parents were just destroying her life. And the parents found out about what was going on and asked the school district, like, hey, this is inappropriate. This is inappropriate contact. But once again, we all know it's wrong. But there was nothing forbidding it from happening. So they went ahead and passed a law last year that said, look, you can't do this. You can't have secret conversations with kids under 18 without the parents' knowledge. Now, some people took issue with it, saying that it was too restrictive on teachers. I heard those arguments. Me personally, I don't buy much into them. I really don't. Mainly because, if you're looking at that side of things with the amount of technology we have, I can't think of a good reason on why it would be difficult for you to not communicate with a student outside of those channels. I mean, a group text is easy to put together. There's lots of email and messaging chains to put together. I don't see a reason why it would be a problem, but a lot of people threw a fit about it. But this bill is aiming to kind of take it a step further of saying, okay, grooming in general should probably be illegal. Using your authoritative figure on underage boys and girls is wrong. It's just wrong. And what's funny is, I brought this up on social media, and some of the comments on it was like, oh, you can't legislate away sin, or, well, once they turn 18, they're adults, so they can make a decision. Like, I'm sorry, but we're talking about them being targeted at the age of 14 by people that they are forced to have in their life. They're authority figures that they're forced to be around. Whether it's because the parent doesn't homeschool, can't afford private school, what have you. But I mean, there's a legal requirement that kids receive an education in Kentucky. Now, a lot of people homeschool, and of course, the rules are, loose as far as exactly what that means. Not that they should be strict, but what I'm saying is that it is legally required you provide an education of some kind. And if it's not going to be homeschooled and it's not going to be private school, then you have to take them to the public schools, legally mandated. If your kid doesn't show up too many days, you could be found to be in violation of a criminal statute. And so these people that are acting like we don't need a grooming bill, like it's wrong to do, like, oh, we can't tell teachers that they can't, target 14-year-old girls and groom them so that way when they turn 18 in 4 years, they can engage in relations with them. Is a ludicrous argument that is okay. You're forcing them to be there. And they're 14. Yes, you can create a lot of different situations to push them in a direction by the time they turn 18. And it's not okay to do. And it's certainly not something that you should say, well, the parents should just do a better job of parenting. They're trying their best, but you're legally mandating they be there. And until recently, the teachers could privately communicate with the student. How's a parent supposed to know? Literally, is a parent supposed to follow them around at school the entire time? I mean, the amount of people, the fact that people would ever defend the idea that grooming should be allowed, the fact that that was even an argument caught me by surprise. A few years ago, the Department of Education did a study and found that 1 out of 10 students, 10% of students will have an inappropriate sexual contact with a teacher by the time they graduate high school. That's a lot. I don't know. Maybe you have some thoughts about it. You can join in the conversation. Text in 502-571-0970. Once again, that's 502-571-0970. 502-571-0970. I'm your host for the day, Andrew Cooperrider. We're coming up on a short break here, but when we come back, we'll continue diving into pieces of legislation, moving around the legislature, discussing, debating their merits. We'll have that when we come back here on Kentucky's Voice.
Are you ready to stand for truth? Kentucky is at a crossroads, and we need voices that won't back down. This is your moment to rise, speak up, and be part of a movement that's changing the narrative in the Commonwealth. Kentucky's Voice is calling on bold citizen journalists, fearless editors, and those unafraid to speak truth in the public square. Volunteer, intern, contribute. Scan the QR code or visit kyvoice.org to join the fight. This is more than media. This is your moment. You are Kentucky's voice.
Now, back to Kentucky's Voice Radio, online at kyvoice.org.
And you're back on Kentucky's Voice. You know, during the break, the Bashir, we know, took off to Davos. He made it back in time for the snowing, of course, and thank goodness he did. I mean, if we didn't have Bashir in his emergency management jacket inside a heated room giving a press conference with monitors behind him and people working, I don't know what we would do. I mean, frankly, I don't know how we would survive without Bashir and his emergency management jacket to make sure our roads are cleared, you know, to make sure that everything's taken care of. You know, I think we'd be lost, honestly. When I sit at home and I'm concerned about the roads and I'm concerned about, you know, am I going to lose heat? Am I going to lose power? Did I buy enough milk and bread and eggs, even though I don't drink milk and don't eat a lot of bread and I haven't cooked an egg in some time? I really don't eat breakfast. Even though I'm concerned about that sitting there, I know when I look up and I see Andy Bashir in that emergency management jacket, I get chills. I get so excited, personally. I don't know how you guys feel. But he was in Davos, and while he was over there on taxpayer dimes, now, we don't know exactly how much he spent. Obviously, last time he went to Davos, he stayed at some flashy hotels, $300 a day per diem, plane tickets for him and his wife, of course, as well. I believe the total expenditure was right around $80,000 the last time he went to Davos. Now, some people are confusing this with the last time he went to Europe, saying, well, he spent $40,000 last time. No. He was in Europe like 3 months ago, and he spent $40,000 on that trip. Okay, so he's in Davos, and while there, supposedly meeting to push economic development and everything else, what we saw publicly coming out, you know, normally when he goes on these economic development trips, especially the last one he went to Ireland, he comes back and he announces something like, I closed the deal, you know, wanting us to believe that Andy Bashir, the closer, stepped up to the plate and like got the contract signed, when of course it was already decided, worked out, and signed before he ever arrived. The trip was completely unnecessary outside the fact that it gave Bashir a good excuse to, you know, travel on our dime. But this time that didn't happen. What we did see publicly, though, is when he attacked Trump, of course, you know, using the opportunity to talk about how America used to be respected, but now we're just the schoolyard bully. You know, last I checked, people respected the bully when I went to school, okay? They didn't want to get on the bully's bad side. I tell you that much. They may not have liked the bully. They may not have invited the bully to their birthday party, but they certainly respected the bully. So, you know, being the quote-unquote bully on the world stage maybe ain't such a bad thing. I don't know if I have a problem with it. You know, there's this meme that goes around every time a Democrat's in office. They're like, oh, it's been restored and people love America again because there's a Democrat president in office. And it's literally like we're dropping the same bombs all around the world. Just instead of being quick and efficient with it, we now have gay pride flags painted on the bomb. And granted, that is how you get, you know, like Europe's respect is if you're going to bomb some people, at least put a pride flag on it while it's going down. You know, maybe instead of dropping bombs, drop things that identify as bombs. Like you just drop a brick and say, I identify as a bomb on it. Maybe that would be a way to go ahead and get the respect of, I guess, the rest of the world, if that's what you're worried about. So he lobbed that attack. He managed to, of course, you know, degrade America on the world stage and talk about how awful and horrible we are. Thanks, Andy. But he also managed to meet with some important donors, one of which is Alex Soros, George Soros's son. Now, last I checked, while Alex Soros does manage an equity fund with a few $1 billion in it, of course, that's where the Soroses make their money. It's an interesting, you know, some people talk about, you know, why does the Soroses care? How do they do this? There's like an interesting connections going on. I'm sure this is probably not the reason why. Like people are like, why do they want to, you know, make our society fall apart. But there's a lot of money to be made when a society falls apart. For an example, shortly after Soros gets his DAs and pushes his political agenda in California, and law and order stops being a thing and police stop, policing, Soros buys up a bunch of equity positions in private security companies that are being hired by the highfalutin, financially wealthy people in California to protect their homes and properties. Am I saying he destroyed the fabric of California's social structure and law and order in order to make a few bucks? I don't know. Maybe. It doesn't sound completely implausible. But regardless, this is who Bashir's palling around with. And I bring that up too because when I originally posted about how this was clearly a campaign event for Bashir, he's traveling to rub elbows on our dime. Some people are like, oh, what's he doing campaigning over in Europe? Who's he talking to in Europe? Who's he campaigning with in Europe? Well, that should give you a pretty good example. And what's odd and to bring this up, and I mentioned this either before on Kentucky's Voice or on my own program, but the gall of Bashir to do these things. Like, this is how much he just literally doesn't care about what you even think of him. So while he's traveling in Davos, he manages to take a few selfies with his wife as they're seeing the sights. That's nice. If you're going to travel, at least share some photos. But then also you take photos with people like Soros. You take photos with these people that we all know are like the dregs of the Democrat donor class that literally, it's hard to look at what they're doing and say they want a healthy and sustainable America. They clearly are tearing away at the fabric. And then you see him meeting with these people while we're paying for it, and it's just an extra kind of kick in the butt. And so to that term, some people asked about the funding, and I mentioned this early on. The way the legislature works now is they just dump money into these buckets of funds, and then it's up to the administration to decide how to spend that money. Well, the problem is that, when they don't do zero-based budgeting, which is where you literally account for every single dollar, it allows these types of situations. Now, even if the legislature doesn't want to get involved in zero-based budgeting because it's too much work or whatever, right? I mean, you'd say, look, you got 2 years to make a budget. Maybe you start, as soon as you're done with this year, you start working on the next budget and you start from zero to cut as much fat as possible. That'd be the way I do it. But regardless, maybe you don't want to do that, but the least you could do is send a message. Bashir has his office budget. Over the last 2 years, he's spent around $200,000 at least traveling overseas for Kentucky, quote unquote, for Kentucky, on the taxpayer dime, but obviously for himself. Why don't you just cut the governor's office budget, that $200,000? Literally say there's a $200,000 cut. And make it known, we're cutting this because you're traveling too much. You're traveling on our dime too much. And I would hazard a guess say he's spending more than $200,000 of taxpayer funds campaigning, especially considering the fact that he won't even turn over his draft or his official travel schedule that already happened to media. Media filed open records requests to see what his schedule has been. What has he actually done over the past few months? What has his travels been? Where has he gone? What taxpayer funds has he used in the process? And he refused to turn them over. Literally, the Herald leader of all people had to sue him to try to get these documents. They claimed that those are draft documents. It's a schedule that actually happened. Well, if you want to join into the conversation, shoot us over a text. 502-571-0970. It's the Kentucky Voice text line. Text 502-571-0970. I'm your host for the day, Andrew Cooperrider. We'll see you back here in a few short minutes.
to Kentucky's Voice Radio online at kyvoice.org.
And you're back on Kentucky's Voice. A very special guest with us, Nick Searcy. Pretty prolific actor. If you don't know who he is right offhand, he played Art Mullen, the chief deputy in Justified. And if you haven't seen that show, you must live under a rock because it's literally about Kentucky. So if you want to text in your questions as we're talking with him, it's 502-571-0970. Nick, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah.
Hey, first, thank you so much. I'm a big fan. Honestly, this is the most exciting interview I've ever done for me. I'm just being honest.
Well, I'm proud to be exciting.
We were actually, it's funny, last night, I had already seen it, but we were rewatching, what is it, 11... Oh, geez, it's the JFK
11/22/63.
Yeah, and you played the principal in there. And so I was watching that with my wife, and you came on, and I said, hey, you're in like so many things, Runaway Jury, Castaway, you play in a lot of movies as, not per se, I want to say the main character, but still a major character within the movies, an important character.
I get small parts, so I have to get a lot of them.
Yeah. Quantity, right? And quality, But before we dig down into it, and I want to talk a little bit about Hollywood, because Kentucky's actively doing a lot of things to bring Hollywood in. And I want to get your feedback from, because you live here in Kentucky now. I do have a question about Justified real quick. This always bothered me. So midway through, it seemed like you brought on somebody who was like from Kentucky and well-versed in Kentucky, especially when the Patton Oswalt character of the constable came about, because that is, in other states, that's not what constables are like. In Kentucky, though, that's exactly what constables are like.
Yeah.
But then in the final season, there's a pretty major point where Boyd has a scene with Ava where they go, he says it's opening season of Razorback season in Kentucky.
Yeah.
Kentucky doesn't have a hog season and never has had a hog season. No. Did somebody get fired? I just always wondered that.
Well, I always used to tease Graham Yost, because every year, Graham Yost was the head showrunner, and every year he would take the writers and they would do like a learning trip to Louisville or to Lexington or whatever. And I would go, oh, what do you guys do? You go over there and you go, everybody act normal. We're from Hollywood. We're just here to observe you. It's like, there's a bunch of Hollywood people. I mean, there were people from Kentucky, obviously, in the writer's room, a couple of them. And but yeah, a show that long, you can't get everything right.
I understand. So one thing, though, I wanted to talk to you about. So Justified came right at the same time as things like Sons of Anarchy, Breaking Bad, Mad Men, really that 2008 to 2014-ish era of TV, where I feel like, for me personally, it was really the peak of the kind of drama action series that came out. You look at the greats, the shows we still watch over and over again on the streaming services, and I look at what comes out now, and it's a lot of slop. It's just a lot of slop. Even in my personal opinion, the revival they did of Justified doing Justified Primeval, it was full of, like, they brought in BLM racial messaging, a part of it. It really was, it didn't even feel like the same characters. Has there been a notable shift in Hollywood that's happened, or what's happened that all these great shows were made in this one period of time and then it just stopped?
Well, I think it goes to the heart of the thing I say all the time, which is the left ruins everything. They ruin everything eventually. And so what they've done is they've ruined Hollywood. I mean, it's now being run, it's not being driven by profit anymore. It's being driven by ideology because of the streaming services and everything, that the way people consume entertainment now, the costs are spread out. So you don't, it's not a matter of selling tickets anymore. It's a matter of impressing the leftist next to you in the cubicle or the leftist above you in the hierarchy. And so that's why you're seeing everything be ruined. I mean, Justified, the sequel to Justified, whose brilliant idea was it to just like do a show that didn't have anybody in it except for Raylan? It's like they just, they thought Kentucky wasn't an interesting character and they moved it to Detroit. And they even took an Elmore Leonard story that wasn't even about Raylan. It was about another character and they just stuck Raylan in it. It's a terrible idea. And the show didn't work at all.
Well, even the attorney he has a bit of a relationship with is it like literally watching that character. I'm like, that is not somebody Raylan from the original Justified would engage in a relationship with.
Yeah.
It's just not.
Well, it's sort of like, they're trying to make unattractiveness attractive.
Yeah. I'm not even saying it's necessarily her looks, though that was a part of it. Yeah. I was like, look, I mean, I mean this in the, I'm extremely straight. I'm married. Just make sure everybody's aware. But objectively speaking, Timothy Oliphant's a classically handsome man.
Right.
And,
he's a terrible kisser, though, by the way, just so you know.
I'm sure. But because I noticed that, and what concerns me, to your point about Hollywood kind of corrupting everything, is I see Kentucky making a huge push for the film industry. Over the past few years, we've done a few things. One is, we brought in $75 million a year we offer in subsidies to the film industry. And some of the people getting it, I mean, 1,000 Pound Sisters just got $1.1 million subsidy for their last season, their current season that they're working on filming. And then
I need to gain some weight.
Well, they've lost a lot, I guess. But and then you have here in Louisville, where we're broadcasting out of, the government spent near on $10 million on a sound stage up here. And I guess my first question, you coming from Hollywood, how much money does that industry actually generate for a state, would you think? Is that actually worthwhile investment in your opinion? I mean, it's your tax dollars now too.
Well, absolutely. I mean, a film that comes in that spends, if you got like say a $10 to $20 million film, you're going to generate $3 to $4 million in at least vendors, in that state, and hotels and restaurants and food and whatever. And so it's a great investment. And if you can get it consistently, I mean, look at what it's done for Georgia. And the fact of the matter is California is in such trouble because they've given the film industry away. They've taxed their state to the point that it's impossible to shoot there. I've got a movie that I'm going to do in Kentucky. A company here in Nashville is going to back it, and we're going to shoot it in Kentucky because of the incentives that the state has created.
What's it about?
It's about gospel quartet music in the 1960s.
Oh, yeah. Okay. You were on Rose's show like 5 months ago or so talking about that, right?
Yeah, and we're in the early stages of that. Hopefully, I'm going to get that done this year. But when we talked about where to shoot it, I mean, it's kind of set and could shoot it in Georgia or North Carolina or whatever. But it's like everybody said, best place to shoot this financially right now is Kentucky. And I said, that's great. Can we shoot it at my house?
Yeah, and that's certainly, and I think you take a film like that and it makes some sense. Sometimes I wonder where we offer it blanket offers like 1,000 Pound Sisters, or there was a few movies that got a few $1 million each, or shows called Sassy Maids 1, 2, and 3. And I just wonder, sometimes you wonder, is that a good, should we be subsidizing that or not? You know what I mean?
Well, I know what you mean. I mean, I think my friend Josh Calloway has tried to do something about, he's asked of the Film Commission, can we have some sort of quality control over this so that we're not subsidizing things that denigrate the country, or that, but then you get into all kinds of free speech issues and people start hollering censorship and all that. But yeah, I think there should be, there used to be something called the National Board of Review, where you sort of, you couldn't make a film that sort of denigrated humanity. But now that's all they make. So,
and you'd like to see if we're actively going after that, to your point of what they've done in California, don't California up my Kentucky. you know, by putting in those control and making sure that that entire culture doesn't get transferred over by making slop films in Kentucky, but instead quality releases. You've also done a few documentaries about specifically January 6th, because you were there at January 6th.
Yeah.
You've made some statements that you know, what you experienced versus what the media's told you experienced are two different things. And so what more do you think on that issue do we need to pursue as a country on the January 6th side of things?
I think we have to bring the people that lied about the January 6 people to justice. And I'm talking about Liz Cheney, Adam Kinzinger, the DA in DC, the judges. The conduct of these judges in these trials, these DC judges, it's just horrible the way they treated these people. And that has to happen, I think, for us to even begin to heal. The truth has to be brought out about how these people were railroaded, how the prosecutors lied and withheld exculpatory evidence. And I would like to see these people made whole. I would like to see these people receive some sort of payback for what they were put through, because so many of them, they had their relationships ruined, their businesses ruined, and some of them thrown in jail without a trial for 3-4 years. I mean, these people were treated horribly, and they need to be repaid. And hopefully it's not necessarily taxpayer money. I would like to see them sue people like Liz Cheney and take some of the millions that she grifted while she was in Congress and spread it out among those people.
Yeah, definitely would seem like there's some defamation opportunities there. Well, we're still going to be with you here after the break. Coming up on a break, if you want to shoot Nick over some questions, feel free to shoot us a text, 502-571-0970. Once again, that is 502-571-0970. That's a Kentucky Voice text line. We'll be back to answer your questions and also continue discussing Kentucky politics with Nick in a few short minutes.
Kentucky's Voice is your home for real news, real people, and real answers. But we can't do it without you. Your financial support helps us bring truth to the forefront, hold leaders accountable, and give a voice to the people of the Commonwealth. Join the fight today. Give online at kyvoice.org or text KYVoice to 53555. Every gift makes a difference. Stand with us. Speak up. Stay strong. You are Kentucky's voice.
back to Kentucky's Voice Radio online at kyvoice.org.
And you're back on Kentucky's Voice. I'm joined by Nick Searcy, a prolific actor. He's been in all your favorite movies, basically. And if he's not in it, it shouldn't be your favorite movie. That's my opinion. Nick, thank you so much for giving us your time. And if people have any questions, they can text into the Kentucky Voice text line 502-571-0970. Once again, 502-571-0970. So you moved to Kentucky a few years ago, right?
A couple years ago, we actually we moved to Franklin, Tennessee about 5 years ago. And then we had my wife is from Owensboro and her family is still there. And we had a friend in Cloverport, little town, that had a beautiful house that we'd visited him at for over 20 years. And I kept telling him, if you ever get sick of this place, let us know. And he finally did. So
do you what do you find most interesting about Kentucky since moving here? Obviously, you're a politically inclined person. What do you think about the politics in Kentucky?
Yeah, it's pretty fascinating. I mean, the smaller towns like where I live, everybody pretty much, with few exceptions, they agree with me. It's common sense kind of rules the day. But then you get into the big cities, it's like anywhere else. The big cities are dominated by foolish leftists and, the people that are dependent on the system and all that. And so it's you have this interesting mix of in the state assembly and the state house is overwhelmingly conservative, but then the national figures, Bashir, Rand Paul, Thomas Massey, a lot of those people are not, I know Massey and Paul are not Democrats per se, but they consider themselves libertarians, and a lot of times they end up helping the left more than they help the right.
Yeah, it's certainly a fascinating state in that we've only had 3 Republican governors, never for 2 terms in a row. But yet, on the Senate side, we haven't voted for a Democrat senator since the mid-'80s. So It's definitely a common split there. So is it hard for you when you're in Hollywood? I don't know how open you were about your politics per se, but I imagine it was kind of hard. If you were, it's kind of hard getting jobs. I don't know how Chris Pratt keeps a job, honestly. Sometimes I'm like, Pratt's doing really well for being kind of clearly a conservative.
Well, once you get to where Chris Pratt is and he's the lead in the story, he's the number one on the call sheet, you can kind of be what you want. I mean, he's got enough audience, enough people that will watch anything that he's in, that it just makes economic sense to put him in the movie. It's a little harder for people like me. I've never been smart enough to keep my mouth shut about anything. So, I don't know. I don't know how I continue to work. I really don't. I just finished 3 episodes of Reacher that's coming on next year, and I'm getting ready to go to Georgia next month and do a movie for Paramount. So either they don't know who I am or they don't care. I don't know. But
you don't have to tell me. You're probably not allowed to know, but do you know which book the next Reacher series is based on?
No, I don't. I don't know which one.
Oh, okay. I also read a lot of Jack Reacher. It's like my favorite. It's my favorite.
It's set in New Jersey, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, that narrows it down a little bit. Yeah, there's a few of them. It's like I said, I listen to those books quite a bit here. So we did have a text come in that said, why not get the state out of the way, both in subsidies and taxes in regards to economic growth? They're talking about the movie industry. Why not get the state out of the way as far as subsidies and taxes in regards to the movie industry? Let private risk create reward. Public usually destroys quality over time. Do you think there's any validity to that? The concern of that getting the government more involved with kind of the subsidy sides of things is destroying the quality?
Well, the way the film business works is they just go wherever the taxes are lowest. That's the way, but that's just the way it is. If you don't compete with the other states like Louisiana and Georgia and Oklahoma and all the places that give you tax incentives, then they just won't come here. That's all.
What year did you see? So, we talked about the great movies of prior time where they did tell stories and wasn't shoving down politics down our throat all the time. Is there a moment in time in Hollywood where you saw like a real shift where it became just super woke, super about, we need to shove messaging down people's throats. It's not just about entertainment. Is there a specific point where you looked at that and said, this is where that happened?
Obama.
Was this?
I think when Obama was elected, everything became, up until then, you could kind of have reasonable conversations with people about politics. But once Obama came around, if you don't support Obama, you're a racist. That was the whole attitude in Hollywood. It started with him, and everything since then has been that way. There's no way to communicate, to talk to people on the left, like Patton Oswalt or anybody else. I mean,
yeah, he's a pretty rank leftist, and you were,
Well, we were very cordial on the set. I mean, I had a good, but you can't talk about politics with him. You just can't. And I never talk politics at work. It's not, I don't talk religion or politics when I'm on the set, because it's just.
Do they talk politics on the set?
They try sometime.
They
don't try with me very much.
Do they actually try to get at you and be like, look, do you really
rarely
think this?
They very rarely do that because it doesn't last very long.
I understand.
I mean, Tim Oliphant and I got into it a little bit on the pilot.
Yeah.
But it was in a funny sort of joking way. But we did it kind of in front of everybody, and ever since then, everybody's like, "Don't talk politics with Nick; he's crazy."
Do you remember what the TIFF was about, or no?
It was pretty harmless, but I don't know if you remember, but there was this scandal about Sarah Palin's daughter. David Letterman made some joke about Sarah Palin's daughter being sexually assaulted by A-Rod. Or something like that.
Okay.
And Sarah Palin sort of was, offended by it. And, Tim kind of poo-pooed it. And I said, well, what if he'd said that about your daughter, Tim? Would you still feel that way? And, it kind of got a little funny from there. But,
yeah, and it's interesting because I feel like on the right, we can still appreciate people who are great talents, even if we know we disagree with them politically.
Yeah.
I mean, Goggins is a great talent. He certainly, I think he's a pretty good actor at least. I don't know what his politics is, but considering at one point he played a tranny in Sons of Anarchy, I'm pretty sure he's not very conservative, but I don't know.
Well, I played a tranny too. I played a tranny in the movie The Comeback. So,
Oh, did you?
Yeah, you can't hold it. You can't hold an actor responsible for what he gets paid to do.
I get it. Well, unless it's pornography, right?
No.
But I think most of us acknowledge, like, yeah, they're probably on the left, but that's okay. It's an art here in Kentucky. You have people like Tyler Childers, for an example. He's clearly on the left. He writes some leftist songs. He plays for Andy Bashir. But at the same time, I think all of us can acknowledge, like, oh, he's a pretty good talent. We can still listen to him. But it seems like on the left, it's just a lot different. They don't care what your talent is or how good you are. They're not interested in engaging with it.
Well, basically, the left wants you erased if you disagree with them. That's just how they are. They don't want to talk about it. They don't want to argue with you because they can't win the argument. So they have to shut you up. They have to cancel you. And if they had enough power, they'd literally mow us all down.
I think
I'm not even kidding.
I know, and I think that's actually what's more concerning, because I don't wake up, I'm sure you don't, thinking to myself, like, literally the people who politically disagree with me, I think most of them are probably well-intentioned people with a good heart that just don't realize the reality of a situation. They're kinds of people that are like, well, why can't this just be free and that be free and this, and why can't the entire world come into America unvetted? Like, I feel bad that these people can't. And while I understand you're feeling that way, the facts is that that's not sustainable. That destroys things. That reality hits you.
Yeah. Well, the thing about most leftists is they believe what they're told by the media, and the media tells them lies, just like they did about January 6th. And the lies are designed to make the left feel like they are better people. Like if you don't believe this, like if you don't vote for Obama, you're a racist. If you don't support these poor people coming across the border, then you have no heart. And all these lies are told to them to make them feel superior. And so they can't give that up. If they admit that they were wrong about that, they have to give up the self-righteousness that comes along with believing in leftism.
But where do you think the violent side of things? Because I think I'm a better person and smarter and more intelligent than any leftist. But I don't have a desire to like throw them all in jail, to silence them, to attack them, get violent. But it seems like based upon the behavior you see both online and in person, it just seems like that is the case on the left. That they
That's the only way they can get power. I mean, that's the way communism always has advanced, through violence, through suppression. That's the only way it works. There's that old saying, you can vote your way into socialism or communism, but you have to shoot your way out, because that's the only way they can get what they want. So they are trained by the media to be violent. They're told that these people over here, they're the Gestapo, they're Nazis, they're racist, they're subhuman, they're deplorables. They don't even deserve to live. And so that's what seeps into their system, and then that's how they behave. So it's not surprising to me that every once in a while one of them goes mad and kills a bunch of people.
So we're wrapping up here, coming up on the end. So you're currently working on a few different things. What should people be keeping their eyes open for if they want to see more of your future work? Well,
I did a movie called Flint that will come out sometime this year. It's a Western. And the movie that I'm going to do in Georgia is called The Rescue. And it stars some young people that I don't know who they are. But I'm nowadays, when I get a job, I'm the oldest guy on the set, and I never know who anybody is. So.
Well, the important thing is they know who you are, right?
They don't know who I am either. I wouldn't get the job.
Yeah, that's what's important. Well, thank you, Nick, so much for your time. I had a really good time talking to you. We'll have to have you on again sometime here and kind of dive in, especially as your projects come out, so that way people can see them, okay? Well, thank you all for listening today on Kentucky's Voice. I've been your host for the day, Andrew Cooper-Ryder. We'll be back with another live show tomorrow, different hosts, but we'll see you then.